Well, I'm very pleased that we've got this time to chat now that the race meeting has been run, and you've seen two Grade 1 races in South Africa and the innovation of the first $1 million race that's ever taken place here. What's your gut feel about your first meeting here in South Africa, Ali Rao, or rather Ali Vance?
Oh yeah, very newly Ali Vance, and actually I was here on my honeymoon in January, so I was very lucky to come to the Law Marines Queen's Plate purely as a race goer and as a fan, so I really enjoyed that day. Today though I'm working for CNN's Winning Post programme, which is a horse racing programme monthly on CNN International, so a bit different when you're working, but both have been fabulous days and it's such a, you're so lucky here with the climate, so you can't really go too wrong, but both have a really relaxed, stylish, sort of elegant feel and competitive racing. I've really enjoyed watching the races, and the thing that struck me most about the actual racing is how close the finishes are compared to racing in the UK. Most of these races are really close here, and the way the horses fan out across the track, pretty much in all the races they fan across, and it's sometimes it's really exciting to watch, and tricky to pick the winner.
Well, I thought that Piers Strydom was particularly brilliant in the Derby because he elected to go to the outside, and having ridden the winner of the Politician Stakes, which was the prequel to this race, and then having got jocked off onto the second and then the third choice from the States, isn't it incredible that the horses called "It's my turn"?
Yeah, it was fantastic to watch that and see the jockeys riding the course in different ways. And the big race, of course, was won by the apprentice jockey, and he came out wide as well. And he came out almost on his own, and there were very few horses out wide, and the battle was happening on the far side, on the far rail. What a well-judged race, and what a fantastic story that an apprentice jockey from Namibia wins the first ever $1 million race on African soil. It was a fairy tale result, and it was hugely popular, and it was great to be around the winner's circle and seeing him come in.
Well, I was looking at the horses in the parade ring, and I said to everybody, the real horse for this race is a horse called Time to Dream, even though it had no form to win the race. But that's what it turned out to be, not the horse's name, but the fact that the Day of Dreams delivered something that you could only dream of. You could never realistically imagine that Hevelin van der Hoofen was going to win $1 million race. It's totally life-changing, not only monetarily, but from a confidence and from a visibility perspective.
Yeah, and hopefully it will put horse racing onto the front pages, perhaps in the Cape and in South Africa, because it's a real human interest story, and so often racing gets forgotten because people just see it as a sport and gambling, and whereas that actually, as you said, a story of a guy who hasn't ridden so many winners and first ever $1 million race, it could be life-changing for him, and let's hope that that really does put racing right on a pedestal, and it gets in the news for what is a great story, and celebrated for that.
Well, I must compliment you and your team, because that's the line of thinking that you had when the horses came into the ring. You were looking for a human drama story. And, we didn't have the crystal ball. 20/20 vision in hindsight. There was the story glaring us in the face. The former champion jockey, Waishong Mowing, not able to ride for the day, and he opens the door for what can only be described as a day of dreams for this young man. Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. And he was so shy, and,
when the guy was interviewing him on the winner's podium, and you could tell it meant an awful lot to him. So as we've mentioned, it's a fantastic story, and racing aside, these are the kind of stories we want to get across to the general public in racing. So across to sports fans and people who perhaps don't follow racing or don't follow sport at all, but everyone can understand the story of someone coming from obscurity almost and winning what is a landmark historic race.
Just give us some sort of indication as to the line of your story today here at the CTS Million Race Day, with the Klavervlei Paddock Stakes, Klavervlei Majorca Stakes, which happen to be the breeder of the CTS Million. It all twined together beautifully, and what your last few days in South Africa will be prior to you departing, I would have to say prematurely, before the J&B Met.
Well, the programme is going to be based for February. The CNN's Winning Post programme is going to be based in South Africa for the whole month of February, as in the half an hour is all South Africa. And we're going to be covering the sales last night, obviously the first ever $1 million race on African soil. We're building up to the J&B Met next week. We will have CNN cameras here, so we'll be covering the J&B Met, and we'll also be looking at the way that Hawk Coulter and horses mix in the JMB Met, and it's not just about the racing, it's obviously a huge event, a huge fashion event. So I think we're going to go and see some designers in Cape Town and get an idea of what a big deal it is for them in the build-up to the Met. We're going to be going over to the Snaiths and
At the beach?
yeah, on the beach, and hopefully I'll be riding one of their horses. Perhaps I might get a ride on their Derby winner. I don't know on the beach. So if he's on easy work, it would be quite nice to have a ride on him and seeing their operation down there. Because from the UK, a few trainers take their horses to the beach, but it's really rare. You guys are just so lucky having the weather and the conditions and the beach, and just it's so beautiful here. And there's just a real feel of beauty and how the horse fits in with the South African landscape and culture down here in communities.
And to put the lid in it, arguably the second most famous human being that ever lived in South Africa, Mr. Gary Player, not too far behind the one and only Nelson Mandela. I believe you're taking a trip up to Colesberg.
We certainly are, and he's such a nice man, and he's so passionate about racing, and he's a legend, as you say, all around the world. But what a nice guy, and you can see what it means to him. He was at the sales last night. He was here. We're going to be going up to his stud farm, basically visiting him at home, where he feels relaxed and where his real passion with breeding horses, and hopefully get a bit of an insight into his normal life when he's not travelling the world.
Well, to put things into conclusion stage right now, I would have to say that it must have been very hard to walk into the shoes of Francesca Kamani with her background, with her ability to convey the sport. But we're very, very proud and very grateful to have you in South Africa and working in this capacity at CNN.
Well, that's very kind of you, and I hope I can do half as good a job as Francesca's done. And I'm very excited about the opportunity to working on CNN's Winning Post, and looking forward to going to some of the race meetings that I haven't been to around the world, and very familiar with UK racing and UK sport as a whole. So looking forward to experiencing new racing communities around the world and big races. Next month we're off to the Dubai World Cup, and then we're off to Sydney in April for their big race. So it's exciting times ahead.
Home away from home, South Africa for you and Seb, all right?
Yeah, absolutely. South Africa's fabulous. I wish I could stay.